All right, so if you're building out a modern data stack today, here's something to think about. What's actually more important? The specific tool you choose or the skills your team really needs to make that tool sing. That's basically the question we're digging into in this deep dive. We're looking at two, heavy hitters in the ELT space, Fivetran and Airbyte, based on some really insightful stuff you shared with us. And this isn't just about like features versus features. It's really about how these tools change the kind of talent you need on your team,
Uh-huh.
or maybe the skills you should be building yourself.
Exactly. I mean, these days, getting data from, gosh, dozens, maybe hundreds of sources into your warehouse, it has to be quick, it has to be reliable. That's just table stakes. And ELT platforms, well, that's what they're built for. Fivetran gives you that very polished, managed experience, almost plug and play for a lot of common sources. Airbyte, though, it's more about flexibility, being open source, customization, that kind of thing. Both are super popular. Loads of companies use them. But yeah, they definitely ask for different skills to really leverage them properly.
Right. So our mission here is to kind of unpack how that choice between tools really plays out, how it affects hiring, how it shapes career paths for, data folks. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. The materials you sent over, they really hammer home that, look, whether it's Fivetran or Airbyte, doesn't matter for this part. There are some core skills you just have to have. Foundational stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Think of it as the bedrock. You've got to be
Mhm.
good with SQL. That's still the main language for digging into data, transforming it. And you need to be comfortable with dbt, the data build tool. It's pretty much essential now for modeling, for transformations once data lands in the warehouse.
Right, DBT is everywhere.
It really is. And then, yeah, knowing your way around cloud data warehouses, Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, those guys, that's a given. Plus, solid data modeling fundamentals, like understanding how to actually structure data so people can analyze it effectively. Without these basics, you're going to struggle in any modern data stack, whichever ELT tool you pick.
Okay, so that's the baseline. But here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because from that foundation, paths kind of split depending on the tool. Let's talk Fivetran first. The sources seem to highlight its big advantage is efficiency through like simplicity,
Yeah.
a managed UI-driven workflow.
That's the core idea, yeah. If Fivetran is your main pipe, your team's skills will naturally lean towards optimizing things within that Fivetran world. So that means getting really good at setting up their connectors, usually through the UI. And a huge one is managing MO monthly active
Ah,
rows.
yes, MAR, the cost factor.
Exactly. It's not just some technical term. It's directly tied to your bill.
Yeah.
So knowing how to optimize data flow to manage that cost, super important. You'll still be doing advanced DBT modeling for sure, but probably focusing on how Fivetran's features work with DBT. And, getting good at using their dashboards to see what's going on, maybe working with Fivetran support if things go sideways. Those become key skills. If you're mostly dealing with standard sauce data, Fivetran skills are gold.
Okay, that makes sense. Managed environment, manage the costs, work within the UI, lean on DBT. So what about Airbyte then? The picture there, especially if you self-host it, sounds, well, quite different. Requires more technical depth.
Totally a different ballpark, yeah. Airbyte, especially self-hosted, pulls you much deeper into the infrastructure side of things. We're talking skills that maybe your typical data analyst or even some data engineers focused just on SQL and dbt might not have. Things like Docker for containerization, Kubernetes, K8s for orchestrating those containers, managing infrastructure using code, IAC, that's a big one.
So less UI clicking, more config files and command lines.
Pretty much. And troubleshooting gets different too. You might be digging into container logs to figure out why a specific sync failed. It's more hands-on at the system level.
And that brings up a key point from the sources. What if you need a connector Fivetran doesn't offer?
Hmm.
That's where Airbyte really shines, but it needs something else, right?
Exactly. Custom connectors. If you've got niche sources, internal APIs, whatever, Airbyte's open source nature and its CDK, the connector development kit, are huge. But using the CDK, that means you need actual software engineers on the team, people strong in Python or maybe Java to build and maintain those connectors.
Okay, so that's a major difference. Fivetran keeps you focused higher up on the data and the managed service. Airbyte gives you that control and customization, but demands you or your team understand and manage the underlying infrastructure and potentially write code.
Precisely. It's a trade-off between managed simplicity and deep flexibility that requires engineering muscle.
Got it. Okay, let's make this really practical. How does this actually apply to you or a listener? Maybe you're building a team, maybe you're planning your own career moves.
Yeah, the scenarios outlined are pretty helpful here. Like, imagine your company is scaling fast. You're using mostly standard tools, Salesforce, HubSpot, Google Ads, that kind of stuff. And maybe your data team isn't huge yet. In that case, Fivetran plus dbt, probably your fastest path to getting reliable data pipelines running and actually getting insights out. The skills you need are more around configuring Fivetran, optimizing MER, and being really good at DB transformations.
Okay, standard sources, speed to insight, smaller team maybe. Fivetran looks good.
Right. But now think about a different company. Maybe you've got a ton of really specific niche APIs you need data from, or old internal systems. Or maybe you have super strict rules about where data can live, data residency, that a standard SaaS tool can't easily meet. In that situation, Airbyte and probably self-hosting it might be the smarter strategic move. And it's a big but you need to know that choice comes with needing a different kind of team.
Yeah, the team skilled in Kubernetes, infrastructure as code.
Exactly. Platform engineers who live and breathe K8s and IAC, and possibly those software engineers who can jump into the Airbyte CDK and build connectors when needed. It's a different investment in talent.
So for data professionals listening right now, the takeaway seems to be really think about where your company is or where you want to work and align your skills.
Absolutely. If your world is Airbyte, maybe focus on getting comfortable with platform operations. Learn Docker, learn Kubernetes basics, maybe even Python for the CDK if that interests you. That makes you incredibly valuable in that ecosystem.
And if it's a Fivetran shop?
Then double down on becoming a dbt expert. Master SQL. Really learn the ins and outs of Fivetran's interface, especially around cost management and efficiency. Understand how to tune performance in your data warehouse.
Right. Makes sense.
And, never forget those fundamentals we started with. Strong SQL, solid data modeling principles, understanding the architecture. Those skills are always, always relevant. The tool-specific stuff built on top of that.
So wrapping this up, what's the core message here? It feels like choosing between Airbyte and Fivetran isn't just about ticking boxes on a feature list.
Not at all. It's fundamentally a talent decision. The tool you pick directly influences the kind of skills your team needs to have or needs to build to actually succeed with it.
One path leans into managed simplicity, optimizing within that system, focusing hard on transformation skills.
And the other path offers the ultimate flexibility, that control, but it demands a real investment in infrastructure know-how, platform engineering, and maybe even custom development work.
So here's a final thought for you listening. Think about the data tools you're using now, or maybe the ones you're looking at implementing. How well does your current skill set or your team's skill set really line up with what that tool demands? And looking forward, what's maybe the single most valuable area for you to dive into next? Is it getting deeper into transformations and dbt? Is it tackling platform operations like Kubernetes? Or maybe even exploring custom connector development, something to chew on?